welcome to Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World. I'm Richard Dugan, your cordial host, and I thank you so much for joining us here on the program as we get set to talk about, well, it's quite simple, your money. I would have the sound of a cash register ringing, but try to stay away from the obligatory sound effects and so forth, as much fun as they can be. Talking about your finances, and if you're in business, even if you're not in business, even if you're just trying to, as they say, make ends meet. We're going to talk a little bit about all of that with our very special guest here on the program, and we're so grateful that she has joined us here. We're going to jump right in. We'll give you all the particulars that we normally do at the front end of the program a little bit later. Right now, we're going to talk with Susie Carder. She has a website, susiecarder.com, SUSIECARDER.com. So you might want to jot that down. We'll be linked to her website. You can see it if you're watching our YouTube channel. You can see in the background there her website and her name. Susie, thank you so much for joining us here on the program via Zoom.
Thank you, Richard, for having me. I appreciate it. I'm excited to serve your community and tell the story about the money, honey, because it's all about the money.
Yeah. Or as most people love the line from the movie Jerry Maguire, "Show me the money."
Exactly, and that's what I show my clients, the money, honey.
Now, I want to get something clear with our listeners that, yes, of course, this program is dealing with a lot of more what we like to call esoteric, metaphysical, spiritual concepts.
Yes.
And that's one of the areas I think we'll touch upon a little later on in the program as well, because a lot of folks are really... I mean, they're talking about this one word, and I quote this gentleman almost every time I talk about the subject of inflation. And the question in the song that he sings is, who makes what inflate? And I've been watching things as they've been moving forward. I'm not sure that I care for the concept of the law of supply and demand. Because what it speaks to me, and correct me if I'm wrong here, we won't go into a lot of this, but correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm seeing is nothing, it has nothing to do with supply and demand, it has to do with greed. That people are claiming that it's more expensive to do this, do that, do the other, the supply chain and all of the other, I call them excuses, because from a more spiritual, metaphysical perspective, there's more than enough for everybody on this planet. There's no lack. Yeah, and yet we've got people screaming lack. Help us to, just real quickly, maybe 5-10 minutes. Can you give us a little 101 on this?
Well, I think there will always be a something, right? There'll always be a pandemic. There'll always be a recession. There'll always be a depression. There'll always be inflation. There's always be another mountain to climb, right? And you realize it's mindset. And it's not until you have a deep spiritual understanding of who you are, not necessarily a religious feeling, but a deep down spirit within yourself that you can take control, right? I believe that finances, wealth is an energy. Right? And you're either pulling it towards you or pushing it away from you. Our limiting beliefs around money, our limiting beliefs around what we can have and what we can't have is all in our mindset, right? And action, right? Because some people go, I meditated, I put a goal board together, Susie. There's no money in my mailbox. I'm like, well, what action are you taking? There has to be more than just thinking about it. Thinking about it and putting an action plan together. So it does go hand in hand. And I know from experience, I've survived many recessions, depressions, inflations, pandemics in my businesses, right? I've built 10 multi-million-dollar companies, 2 $10 million companies, and have weathered the storm. This is just another season, right? And so I think we're going to look at, is this season the place you're going to get stuck in? Is this the season that's going to propel you? The great thing about when we do have economic struggle is it levels the playing field. People who are wannabes have a tendency to get squeezed out. People who are running businesses and running their life at a higher vibration and a higher level are the people that rise. And so you've got to get your head out of the negativity. You've got to get your head out of the naysayers and stay focused on what is my true purpose, my true intention, and my true calling. I believe, Richard, that my gift from God is my life. My gift back to God is, what do I make of my life? Right? It's not just about money. Money is a vehicle. Money gives me the opportunity to do things in the world, provide for my family that I couldn't normally do
Mhm.
if I just had a job. And so entrepreneurship, business for me is creativity. It allows me to live a life that's unrecognizable, and I wouldn't be where I'm at today without the entrepreneurial journey.
Well, I know that, and I've been working for, I've been fortunate to have some rather long stints at different jobs, different radio stations, which is honestly, which is unheard of. You just don't do that, okay? You you don't stay at a place for 2, 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 16 years in broadcasting. You move around. You jump from station to station. Well, guess what? I didn't do that. I lived in
Right.
Phoenix for 46 years. I worked for one station, my very first station, for probably 8 to 10 years, along with another station I also worked for 15 years. Then I jumped from a couple to a couple, three or four other stations in the Phoenix area until 2006, when we moved to Santa Barbara, where I then started working for a company that owned 6 different stations in the same building, and I would do board work and production work and blah blah blah. Then I worked for a TV station for almost a year. When I got the job here, I've been here 16 years.
Right.
That is unheard of. You just don't do that, And I don't expect a gold watch because I have no intention of retiring, except to put new tires on my truck,
Right.
because I love what I do. But that's one of the problems that we have, especially here in America, is that there are a lot of people who don't love what they do. They've gotten stuck as far as family business, or my dad was a coal miner, and my grandpa was a coal miner, and my grandma was a coal miner. I mean, you get caught up in those kinds of things. Well, those types of things are kind of going away. Are you finding that, and this goes to sort of your entrepreneurial statement, in 2008, 2009, I remember seeing a statistic that some 100,000 people at one point had lost their jobs due to the recession. What I don't know if you called it the Great Recession, but
I call it the great mollywop upside the head because I got mollywopped, ran over, dragged in 2008. So,
but here's the thought that came to me, the first thought. Now, granted, I had a job then. Okay, I was working here. My first thought, though, was, I wonder how many of those people hated their jobs.
right.
Then, I think it was 2009 and then into 10, the number of entrepreneurial businesses that popped up following that first year, year and a half or so, it was like an explosion of entrepreneurial ventures. And people apparently got the idea, well, shoot, if I can't, I can't be a coal miner anymore, or whatever the industry is, I wonder what I'd really like to do. And they began doing it. Well, we're kind of going through the same kind of thing, only now you're seeing that the unemployment rate is down, but the hiring need has gone through the roof. And you wonder, well, where did all these people go? Now, part of this, and I say this very gently and respectfully, part of this has to do with the number of people we've lost in the last 2 years. 1 million people. Now, out of 350 million, that doesn't seem like a lot. It's still 1 million human beings.
Right.
And some of them were working. Some of them were retired. Some of them were children, who weren't. But still, we've lost a number of people. But a lot of people are rethinking the traditional 9 to 5, aren't they? And it's changing the dynamics of our workplace, but also, isn't it also changing the dynamics of our economics?
Well, it's both, right? If you look at about 42% of small businesses went out of business during this particular pandemic, this particular crisis, right? And again, it's a level playing field. And so more entrepreneurs are born inside of a recession, a depression, however you want to create it, and know that it's part of the economic cycle. So when I look at the opportunity, it weeds out the weenies, the people that weren't really serious about a business. They were kind of playing at it. It might have been a hobby, it might have been an idea. And then when the rubber met the road, people went out of business. And so there's been a ton of growth inside of this economic trend as well. Businesses rising because of the need, the higher need of people needing services because there is a shortage of people. That's also put pricing through the roof because there's a shortage. I'm in a small town. I can't get anyone in my little small town to show up, like any kind of contractor, any kind of builder to show up to do anything. So, and now I'm this home improvement maven, right? Doing all this stuff to look at, wow, the market has really shifted. Or if they do show up, prices are astronomical. So I think it will correct itself, right? It always does. But
Yeah.
an opportunity to look at if you've lost your job, if you've been furloughed, to go, what would I do? There it is a process and a creative process to go, what is that gift that I have that nobody else has? What's that thing I do naturally? Like you're a natural interviewer, you're natural commentary. That's just your nature. And so you found this perfect sweet spot. That's why it's fun for you. Same for me. I feel like I don't ever have to work. This is work. Right now I'm working. Oh my gosh, this is so much fun for me. I get to talk to people. I get to talk to you. I get to meet amazing people. I get to travel all over the world. I get to make a difference in people's businesses. That's my goal. I remember launching my business. I'm like, I'd love to be a speaker. Well, what would I speak about? What do I know? And it's tapping into what is that bigger purpose for you? What's that thing that only you can do? What's that thing that you do naturally that all your friends come and say, oh, can you help me with this? Can you do this? Can you do that? That's a place to start. I think people have a hard time really looking at, well, what would I do outside of this job? Because our society trained us from an early age to go get a job. Now, different generations, newer generation, they're not like you. They're not staying 16 years. They're staying 2 years tops, right? That's a long work history right now, which is hilarious. I'll look at a resume and they're moving every year. I'm like, what is up with you? And they're like, what? It's opportunity. I want a new skill set. They've got a great strategy around it when I ask them, but I'm used to people like you where we stayed inside of organizations. I grew businesses and sold businesses, right? So I stayed inside of that trend of building that for myself. So this is the opportunity to look at what's the need, and there's a ton of need coming up. How can you do it better? How can you serve that client better, right? What results can you help people produce?
One of the philosophies that I have operated on pretty much my entire career, and I had a business for 1 year. I think it was like 1994, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. And I shut it down after the first year when I went to do my taxes because I wasn't aware of all of the intricacies, and I owed the IRS. Actually, it's the U.S. Treasury you write your check to, $3,000. And I said, the next time I start a business, I'm going to make sure before I start it that I have a CPA
Yes.
because they will make sure that all of the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, all the correct forms are filled out, all of the funds that come in, they're divvied up the way they're supposed to be so that I don't have to deal with that at the end of the year or quarterly or however that works out. And I want to talk a little bit about one of the philosophies that I have lived by for 43 plus years. And the reality is, I think I probably got it when I was a paper boy, all the way through 4 years in high school and even 8th grade. I delivered newspapers in Phoenix. I have to tell you that, and I share this with others, I love doing this, what we're doing right now.
Right.
But if it were possible for me to go back in time and be a paper boy again, I would do it. And I'll tell you why. It's actually along the same lines of what's happening here. I get to meet some of the most incredible people. We had some of the most incredible conversations. I made some good friends. And I was delivering in the same area for 4 straight years. And it was great. in addition to the fact that I was my own boss, I was outdoors, which I love being outdoors as well. It was a great job. But I'll tell you about that philosophy in just a moment. As soon as I tell our listeners, you're listening to Susie Carter, and we are talking about the money game, if you will. She has a website. It is, of course, her name actually. It is Susie Carter with a D. That's SUSIECARDER.com. Her latest book is Power Your Profits, plural, Power Your Profits. Now, you can get Susie's new book for, and I'm curious about this, I want to ask you about this in just a moment, for $26.88, and you also get a book that has bonuses up to $6,800 in value, so I hope you'll check that out. I think it's important for all of us to get on not so much the money train, but the mindset train, that there's more than enough for everybody, because we all don't want the same things. And we're going to continue talking about those things as we do so here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and we are here with Susie Carter. We're talking about her book and the work that she does, having owned $20 million in businesses. It was two businesses, each of worth about $10 million. And she wants to help you to go from 10,000. I need your help just to get to 10,000, Susie, so that I can then go to 10 million. Although I do have to tell you that I said this early on in my career, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 years in, and I said it to my employer. And I shared this with someone. They said, "What the hell? Why were you sharing that with your employer?" I said, "Well, because that's how I feel." I said, if I could do this for free, volunteer, and I knew that my bills would be paid and that I'd have food on the table, clothes on my back, a place to lay my head at night, I'd do this for nothing. That's how much I enjoy it, right?
That's a passion right there. That's a
Yeah.
passion, Richard. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
And we've done it, right? We've done it for free or pennies. That might as well have been free. Like in your early days to go, this is my love. This is my passion. I believe that's what we're supposed to have in our life. Not something you dread and can't wait for the weekend,
Yeah.
right? I agree. Weekends are great and you're doing stuff, but if you hate what you're doing every day, what's that doing to your health?
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
That's why we're overweight as a society. That's why we have so many isms, alcoholism, gambleism, sexism, like whatever your ism is,
Right.
right? To go, yours and I's just have to be workaholism. It's very healthy because we love what we do. The work starts for me, Richard, when I stop working. All of a sudden I'm like, well, what am I doing? I want to work on Richard's business. That's so exciting. I can see the plan. I can see the future.
Yeah.
I think that's our goal, is to find, what is that passion that you want? And do you have the mindset? You don't have to be an entrepreneur, right? And the entrepreneurial mindset just gets you to that next level. When I look at the most successful team members that I had working in my businesses, they had an entrepreneurial mindset, meaning it wasn't a 9 to 5 job. They didn't have, like, I got to go home. It was, no, we have a project, we have a deadline, we were outcome based, right?
Right.
Results based. And so, as people, if we become results based, that allows you to start building the discipline, right? Versus, I've had friends in the past. I had an ex-husband, we call him a husband, that was like, I just want it easy. I just like this job because it's easy. Like, really? That's what you want, to spend 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, 12 hours a day doing something easy? You don't have to engage your mind. You don't have to engage who you are, right? I had a very stressful job, but it was still like, I'm looking for the easy. There's no quick money, right? Whether you think it's quick money, if you hate what you're doing, that's the hardest money you will ever make, right? Let's do something that you're passionate about. My very first book, I've written 10 books. My very first book, Richard, was called Passion. My editor read it and my title was not that sexy, right? And she's like, Susie, I read this book and you're so passionate about this industry. We need to call it Passion. And I'm like, Eva, that sounds like we're selling some sex or something. She goes, well, exactly. That sex sells. So we're going to leverage that. But you're so passionate about what you're talking about. And I am. I'm fierce about business. I'm fierce about my family. I'm fierce about people's profitability because it was so hard for me to learn. This did not come naturally for me. I'm a creative, right? I'm intuitive. I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a builder. That whole 85%, 15% of your financial success is the vocation that you do. The 85% is where people get stuck. That's the sales, the marketing, the operations, and the finance.
Yeah.
That was hard for me, right? But I had to figure out how to do it to take care of my family, provide for my family, provide for my children. That was Ben. My picker was off, dude. That was a bad relationship, right? I left that with 2 little kids, right? No alimony, no child support, and I'd figure out how to do it, right? How do I take care of my family? That was my why. That was my big why. First is my children and my family, and never wanting to be in that situation again, right? To where I felt held hostage by having to stay, or having, which I see a lot of people get stuck and be held hostage with their job. I have to stay because I'm making 6 figures, or I have to stay because of these things. Yeah, but then you don't have a life that you love. And isn't that why we're doing what we're doing, is to have a life that you love?
Yeah.
You can't wait till you retire. You look at retirement statistics. Most people die within the first 5 years, right, of retirement. And it's higher with men, because all of a sudden my purpose is gone, thinking, oh, I'll enjoy life then. No. We need to enjoy life now, right, while we're on this journey to that next season.
Yeah. My father's 90. All right.
Ooh, that's some good genes, my brother.
Yeah, so I have to live to be 100. I have to outlive my mother's grandmother, who lived to be 100.
Wow, good genes, good genes.
I'm hoping, and I got to get some new genes too, but that's another story for another program. My philosophy has always been, if you, and then to me this applies whether you are an employee or whether you are an employer, an entrepreneur with people, like you have staff. And the philosophy goes like this. I want to make you successful, because if I make you successful, then I'm successful, and not the other way around. Why is that one so hard for some people to get? Because I do believe it's a truism. I think that you would agree with it, that if my goal as an employee is to try to get a raise every year and a promotion and all those kinds of things, I'm more interested in me. Whereas, and then along the same lines, they have this attitude, and I remember seeing or hearing an article or a news story back in the mid 80s about Motorola, and they laid off like 1,000 people. And they even gave the reason why. And the reason was because they had done an audit of the materials. And they said, there's $1 million worth of materials missing. And we gotta cut somewhere. And odds are some of the people who were pilfering were probably some of the people who were let go. You know, karma is what it is. But I also thought that some of those people who were let go also did not like their job, did not like their employer, whether they pilfered or not. And it's like, why are you biting the hand that feeds you?
Right.
And
Well,
I've had some horrible employers from time to time, not a lot, but I had one. And I was not going to give him the satisfaction of quitting. They had to lay me off. And then they gave me a massive severance package. And in radio, you don't do that unless you have a contract.
Right.
So I knew that they knew that they had done me wrong. But I stayed because I loved what I was doing, and I didn't want to start looking for another job all of a sudden. But what about that attitude? Do you think that attitude is still prevalent, or because of what we've been through in the last 2 years and some of the changes in our workplace as well as our economy, that maybe that's sort of on the way out because people are realizing, oh, wait a minute, it is up to me, not up to quote unquote the man?
Well, I think they're the millennials, right? So if you look at the boomers, we were actually called the me generation, right? We were very self-centered. But the new millennials, it's the me generation.
Oh.
Right? If you look at that age group, 58% of college students have scored higher in narcissism. It's all about me, who cares about you? And so I still see it in hiring trends, the younger generation just believing they deserve it. That, you know, our kids got trophies for just showing up versus when we were kids, we got trophies because we did something or we didn't, right? So I think we raised this society of me, instant Google download, instant satisfaction, microwave food, microwave this, now. And so the pivot and the reality check is, as employers, standing stronger to go, I don't want to keep the spoiling going. Right, I will pay you $100,000, but you got to earn $100,000. Right, I'm just not writing you a check for $100,000 because you went to some school. No, not going to happen. Now, some industries will, right? But you've got to look at what culture do you create inside of your business. Culture is incredibly important, right? When you look at creating a culture that thrives, a culture that's responsible, a culture that's results based, versus a culture that has their hand out going, what do you got for me now? What do you got for me now? What do you got for me now? And looking at how do I create that? Because money, when I look at employee satisfaction, money isn't the number one, right? It's the ability to make a difference. Like a lot of it's cause motivated, right? Those are the reason why people stay at companies. Money's there, it's in the top five. It's just not number one or two. And most people think, oh, it's number one. I've had some amazing talent in my career come work for me. I didn't have the budget to pay them, right? And incentivize them and had an amazing work environment so people would stay, people would give their genius, people would contribute more. And so I think we overlook what a culture can do for a small business and even a large business. To manage the culture, you manage the outcome.
Does it make any difference whatsoever whether you think of your business on a local scale, regardless of what it is? And obviously, if you're, let's just say, in the hospitality industry, it's obviously local for the most part. Or if you broaden your perspective, if this is a correct term, to realize and recognize that despite what anybody else says, I am sorry, folks, but this is a global marketplace, okay, and you better get used to it because that's not going to change.
No, it's actually getting more relevant, right? A lot of people thought, oh, how am I going to do business? My first training company, it's so funny, was called Salon Training International. We were the largest training and development company in the beauty industry, Richard. And I remember this French company came to me and said, oh, do you have trainers that speak French? I'm like, no. They're like, it says Salon Training International. I'm like, I will find one. Right? So, realizing we had this name, but we weren't in any way have the ability to do international training without an interpreter, right? Most times we had an interpreter if we did it. And so that still worked. But really looking at, back in the day, this was 20 years ago, right? Looking at what international meant then versus international now. I'm talking internationally every single day, right? I'm talking to Europe. I've got a marketing person that's in Europe. I've got another business that's in Costa Rica. That's one of my businesses, right? And our business is housed in Costa Rica, but we do business in Singapore on a regular basis. So it completely changed the framework of how I run my own personal business, which I would have never thought about that even 10 years ago, that I would have a business in Costa Rica and Singapore and the US and serve a global market. And so I think it's important that we look at what are the trends, right? Global business isn't going to go away. And how do you do business in a global market, right? You need coaching. You need support in that. I had to hire a company that specialized in finances in Singapore because it's different, right? The conversion is different. How we do our taxes is different, right? How we do our bookkeeping is different, right? It's all paperwork, but it's important that we get that paperwork right. Just like you found out that you owed the IRS, $3,000. That can be a mollywop if you owe 10, 20, 30 grand, right? At the end of the
Yeah.
year, depending on how much money you make. And so I think as a global economy, it makes it fun. It makes it, you learn a lot about different cultures, and you also have to make sure your culture speaks to that culture. The sexy thing is a lot of countries want to know the American way. That's the sexy thing, right? And again, if I look at not one of the number one reasons why businesses fail is pricing. You're not pricing yourself to be profitable. And then if you add a global market on top of that, you could really lose money fast. And so if I look at my students that are coming to me, they don't know how to price their services. They pulled it out of their genius zone or their Heine, right? How much is Rich charging? How much is Susie charging? I'm going to charge this. And that's one piece of it. You do need to do, competitive analysis, but that's not the end all be all. My overhead, where I live in, Richard's overhead is completely different. He's in Santa Barbara, I'm in Oregon, completely different overhead based on where we sit in the world, right? Based my Costa Rican business and the expenses there are way less expenses than my American business, right? So Singapore is similar, right, in spend. Right, we have a lot of talent that we hire. I would say 70% of our talent right now, Richard, is overseas, right? Because it allows my dollar to go farther. I can find amazing team and amazing work for pennies on the dollar in the U.S. It's amazing money for them, but it allows my budget to go stronger. Like that one little shift in a business can be the difference between profitability and no profitability. So it's going there, whether you're sitting here waiting for it to be different, or if you're jumping on the trend to go, oh, we are in a global marketplace. How do I thrive in a global marketplace? Because anything we do, you're going to have a learning curve, right? So let's make the learning curve work for you versus you be on the end of that. Let's try to be those early adopters and be in the front of it. You're going to make mistakes. That's just business. I've learned that a long time ago. Business is up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down. It's don't stay in the down. When it's down, get your honey out of the down and get back up again.
Yeah. Well, you used a key word we like to talk about here on the program, and that is thrive. We're trying to move out of the mode of surviving to thriving. And to me, that's extremely important. And I want to talk a little bit about that as we continue talking with Susie Carder. SusieCarder.com is the website. We'll be linked to her website so that you folks can find out more about the work that she is doing, as well as pick up a copy of her book, Power Your Profits. That's plural. Power Your Profits. We hope that you will go to our website. It's, I'm sure, available as well on Amazon and many other locations as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and we're talking with Susie Carter. And Susie, first of all, in regards to your book, I noticed the pricing. Now, I know enough about sales, and I guess it's part of marketing too, that when you price something, it has been said that if you're going to have cents, dollars and cents in your price, even if it's whatever it is, $699.99, that's not $700.
Right.
It looks less than that. But yours is priced at, and I don't know if you had any control over this, $26.88. Can you explain why? Because that's kind of an odd pricing.
It is an odd pricing, and I had no control of it. That's a Simon & Schuster, right? Simon & Schuster is my publisher, right? But there was strategy to everything, right? The book color, right? The buildings on the book, everything about that had strategy inside of it, which I love, right? So yes, you are right. It removes the barrier that it's not that next dollar amount or that 90-cent amount. And you had said earlier, we give you a ton of bonuses. People go, why are you giving $6,000 worth of bonuses? Well, because it's training that's sitting in my archives, right? That's what we sold it for. And they're the companion to the book. I want to give you the tools you need so that you can start building a business. Whether you buy the book and get the tools and do it on your own, or you buy the book and come to a training and I help you through a training, or you buy the book and you come into a program that we do. I don't care how you get your information. I learned a ton as a student by books. Books were my first mentors, right? As a young entrepreneur, not having a budget to hire people, books are amazing. I still use them as a resource every single day. And I like a physical book. I like, I have ebooks, but 9 times out of 10, I don't get my Kindle out and read it, right? I love the physical book. I'll carry it around. I'll bring it on vacation, right? It's on every nightstand in my book, in like my coffee table, my nightstand. I just keep carrying it with me. And the book, Richard, is really designed not as it's not in a sequential order, although it is because I have a great editor. But if you suck at math, go straight to chapter 8, Math is Money, Money is Fun. Like, don't go anywhere else, right? If you really need to get the vision of your business, I want you to start at the beginning of the book. Get your mindset right. If you suck at sales, you're like, Susie, I don't know how to close. Great, go to chapter 6. I give you my $100,000 sales script that I close $100,000 clients with every time I use that script. So it's not sprinkle fairy dust. It's not ideas. I've been doing it. I've been in business for 30 years. It's everything that I had to do to build 7-figure and 8-figure businesses, right? It's the blueprint of making that business work.
Mm-hmm. We are talking with Susie Carter, and she is sharing with us her insights and helping you to not necessarily become a millionaire. That I don't think is the point of all of this. It's to help you to change your perspective. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and I thank you for being with us. Susie Carter is my guest, and she has a book called Power Your Profits, and I think it's very interesting, too. I was looking at one of the web pages, and I like the color, although I think I don't know if it's the right or the wrong green. I don't know if it should look like the dollar bill green, but I noticed that you were wearing, in one of the images, you were wearing a blue dress.
Yes.
Now, in movies and television, they will show you something in a single shot, okay? And they don't do that for no reason. There's a reason why. So I'm curious, there's a reason why we do everything. There's a reason why I have behind me the images that I do, or why I wear the hat. First of all, I like the look, and, I guess that's sort of my brand. Why I use the phraseology that I use in my programs here about giving people choices and knowledge of those choices to help make their dreams come true, looking for those new ways of living, because the old ways don't work. All you have to do is look around you. They aren't working. And that's why we have the people on like yourself, Susie. So I'm curious, can you tell me, was it just I just grabbed it out of the closet, or was that a conscious choice? This is the color because it actually works well to set off the book.
Well, actually, it is a brand color for my brand, right? So the book, again, strategically, we had a focus group. We had several different covers of the book that the focus group chose that color. The color is very on brand, very on trend. Interesting enough, books with 3 letters in the title, Power Your Profit, were higher selling than books that had more words. So again, strategy. The brand colors for my brand, that is one of my brand colors, that blue. And we know historically that blue, like red, blue is a power color. And so it is important to really look at everything that you do inside of branding. Color is one of the most powerful things that you can really look at. The color blue represents trust, responsibility, dependability, all qualities that everyone that aspires inside of a company. Now, you have to walk that talk. You can't just put on a blue shirt, right? You have to be that as well. But it is important. Same with red, right? Red is an action color. And so when you're looking at when I first started business, even though I was in the beauty industry, it was driven by men. And men were the decision makers. One of the first classes I went to, they're like, you got to wear a suit. It needs to be a blue suit with an accent of red. I had short hair, trying to be as masculine as I could to fit in this man's world, right? As a 25-year-old trying to be serious as business, take me seriously, and going, that's part of the game, right? Don't hate the person, hate the game, not the player. And so when you know the rules of business, it becomes fun. I think we resist it. Right? Stop resisting it. It's a game, right? Your hat is a game. It's part of your brand. It's part of your signature style, right? Showing up in our meetings now, right? Having a virtual background versus your bedroom. Like, I was on a publishing meeting, and the young gal, she was literally sitting on her bed. I'm like, honey, we're going into this meeting. You need to get off that bed. I don't care where you go. We're not having a meeting. You sitting with your bed in the background. She's like, well, right? So it takes your professionalism down, and you're working for a major publisher. Like, no, we can't have that, because people judge you moment by moment by moment, right? You're forming 11 different opinions about somebody in 60 seconds. Yeah. You decide if you want to do business with them. You decide if they're married, if they're single, if they're looking. You decide if they're funny. You decide if they're intelligent, just by the way that they look and carry themselves. So it's a game. Again, am I using all the assets, all the resources around me to play an important part in the game? If you're getting passed up for a promotion, a job, look at yourself first. From your being to your attire. There was a study statistically said that people that groom themselves professionally, meaning you have a look, like you have a brand, you have a look, make 20% more than people who don't. Okay, well, if I'm going to put lipstick on or do my hair, or you're going to put a hat on to make 20% more and create a brand, okay, then that's what we're going to do. Right. So I think it's important that you realize what's stopping me is probably me. You are the biggest stop block inside of your growth and development. By being righteous, by being stuck in the old way, by not wanting to move with the trend, by not liking the way it is what it is. How do we leverage what it is and make the most of what it is?
Almost 2 years ago, speaking of which, I began, and I had been doing video recordings of my interviews on Skype and switched over to Zoom. But I had been recording those, and but I wasn't really. I was just taking the audio. I was extracting the audio, and so 2 years ago, almost 2 years ago, July of 2020, I started working with a gentleman on what was termed Zoom theater, We were actually doing theater on Zoom. We would record it. And then I started video editing. I wasn't doing that before. I've never liked television or anything to do with a camera and recording interviews and so forth because it takes so much to prepare. Whereas with audio or radio, you sit down, you flip a switch, you start the recording, and boom, you're off and running. It's almost instantaneous. And yet, I said, hey, you know what? This is where we are now, early in the pandemic. I at least I get to see these people, even if I can't be with them in person, that kind of stuff. And it just worked. And so now that's what I'm doing. I recorded these videos as we're doing here on Zoom, and we have a YouTube channel now. So I produce them up. I put an intro. I put an outro. I put all of the, for example, people watching the YouTube video right now, what they see, not only in terms of what's behind me, my virtual background, but what's behind you, your virtual background. Above you is your website address. Below you is your name. And the same for me, not your name, but mine below me and my website above. And then between the two of us, I have an image of your book.
Yeah.
And it's there through the entire interview, okay?
I love
Then I have
that.
images at the beginning of my brand and promoting, because you mentioned this earlier, you talked about intuition, promoting the Decade of Perfect Vision, where we encourage people to go within and listen to that still small voice, spend time in that quiet, peaceful, calm place. I used to think if I could find that one place on the planet where I could just get away from everything, all the sounds and the people and everything, it would be great. And then I began to process that forward and thinking, well, wait a minute. But if I can find it, then so can other people. Mm-hmm. I thought, darn it, there's no place. Until I really started getting into the understanding of the still small voice and that inner space, or what some people from the biblical perspective might call your prayer closet of sorts, which is that inner life. And then I realized, there is a place that nobody else but me can get to.
Yes.
And boom. And so it's like, great. I want to talk to you about that as we continue. We're talking with Susie Carter, and we're talking about the work that she's doing, the book that she has out right now that you, obviously, if you're watching YouTube, you can see the book, and it's called Power Your Profits. That's plural. You can power your profits. It's created more millionaires and multimillionaires than any other single strategy or tactic today. We hope that that includes you folks as you continue listening to Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host, and Susie Carter's my guest, and SusieCarder.com is the website. We hope that you will go there to pick up a copy of the book. And there's a lot of stuff on her website that doesn't cost you a thing. But when you go there and you do order the book for $26.88, which is, again, I think that price actually helps it to stand out in such a way. If you think about it, Susie, I don't know if you've processed this or not. 6 and 2 are 8, and then you have 88. And that's infinity. 3 times. Infinity cubed. Okay. I don't know.
You know what? That's going to be my new answer. I'm just going to say that out loud, Richard, because that's a good one. I'm going to give you kudos for that. And I want to tell my friend Richard brought this to my attention because that's pretty profound.
Infinity cubed. And that's really the reality of this universe is just that. Some would say, oh, it's finite. No, it's not. It's infinite. Especially the fact that thoughts create things, as we all are aware of. And so everything is made of energy. And you cannot destroy energy. You just change and transform it. And that's really what I think you're talking about. And one of the things that I would like to talk to you about, in addition to so many other things that we may not have time for, I think this is important from that inner life perspective on how to reshape. I'm going to put it personally. How to reshape my relationship to money? How do I do that? Where do I start?
I love that you asked that because it starts with first, what are your beliefs around money? So we have these limiting beliefs. We have inherited beliefs that we got from our mother, our father, our grandparents, our great grandparents, from our culture, from our churches
Mhm.
that may not be your beliefs. Like I grew up in a very large family. There was 9 kids, right? Two parents.
Wow.
There was Bobby, Ronnie, Stevie, Terry, Joni, Shelley, Susie, Kelly, Debbie. And so we grew up in an environment. There was 1,200 square feet, right? There was 6 girls, one bathroom. I go back to that house. I'm like, how? How did all these people? How did we all eat dinner together in this tiny little dining room? Like we had one of those restaurant booths. That's how
Oh
we had
my.
dinner. We all
Wow.
shoved in there. So I guess we were little, right? When I think about all the kids. But what I learned about money is there is none, don't ask. Money doesn't grow on trees. And if you want to make it, go earn it. That was my belief around money.
Mm.
We grew up from poverty. We were the kind of poor that we knew we were poor. It wasn't like, you hear people say, "Oh, we grew up but we didn't know we were poor." No, we knew we were the poor kids, right? Our whole community was impoverished. And so there wasn't like this lifestyle that you could see and go, "Oh, I want Richard's life or I want Susie's life or I want." There wasn't. It was just like, this sucks. And so from 10 years old, I'm doing laundry, I'm doing yard work, I'm washing windows, I'm cleaning houses, I'm doing, babysitting to earn money to buy the things that you want, whether it was a bicycle, skates, a moped, a car, right? Whatever it was. Mine, I had this fixation with underwear because with that many children, you share everything. And I just wanted my own underwear, Richard.
Okay.
And so I had to, at becoming an adult, I knew I didn't want that lifestyle. I wanted something different. I didn't know how to get there. But I had to start to identify. I grew up in the 70s and 80s and transformational work and positive thinking and Wayne Dyer, right? When you start looking at Ken Blanchard, where some of the old godfathers, Zig Ziglar, who said that you could really shift what your environment is by what you think about, you talk about, what you talk about, you bring about. And so I started this work early on and started really looking at what did I want to create for my life.
Mm.
And so I have, in each area of my life, one, I had to recreate my financial premise, my financial belief, because money is just a vehicle, but I had to create a premise. I had to create a vision for my life, right? And when I think about my vision is I'm prosperous and I respect money and value the contribution it provides for me and my family. I'm a financially abundant woman creating my own financial destiny. I value investing and saving for my future and create strategies that plan around me. Everything I touch turns into opportunity, which turns into prosperity for myself, my children, and my community.
Mm.
My financial wealth changes communities. I support women and entrepreneurs who want to learn how to be accountable and responsible for their own destiny, giving small business loans and grants to start a new business or an enterprise that makes a difference in the world. So when you think about money and you hear that, it's not about the money. It's the opportunity that money allows me to provide for my family, for my community, for a bigger vision. Money's that vehicle. But you've got to look at what is that belief that you're carrying around from your parents and your grandparents and your community, right? If you grew up in a spiritual world, right, in a church, right? A lot of my students grew up in churches, and there was a lot of times there's not a healthy relationship that we have to suffer, right, and give everything away. Well, I tithe, I give away, but I'm also taking care of myself. And you're going to get your jewels here. You don't have to just wait till you get in heaven to get your crown and get your jewels.
Mm.
I believe God wants us to be abundant because the more abundant I am, the more good I can do in the world, right?
I can't disagree with you at all on those points, although one of the things that has always troubled me, because I worked for 15 years at a Christian radio station, and during the height of televangelism in the 80s and early 90s, and that just turned me off like you would not believe. I heard the words they were saying, but
Yes.
the fact that they were from my perspective, they were taking advantage of people
Well,
and the
yes.
vulnerability. That's what disturbed me. But
But
it,
in every business, I will say this, Richard, in
Mhm.
every business, there are charlatans. Every
Yes.
business. There's a lot in mine, right?
Mhm.
There's so many people who are just taking people's money and not giving them the service and the value,
Yeah.
right? So there's good in environments and there's bad in environments. I think what
Yeah.
we have to do, like you did, you discern, like, wait a minute, that's not aligned with my values. That's not allowed with
Yeah.
aligned with my integrity. I can't be here anymore, right? Because you can sit in it for a minute and then you're like, this doesn't even resonate with me. This just feels yicky, icky. I'm saying icky, right? Every time you do something, that's your internal compass. That's your integrity. And the degree of your aliveness is to the degree of your integrity. And so if your integrity's out, like that was an integral piece for you to go, wait, I believe this, but this is not right. This is not my belief system.
Yeah.
And that's a big wake up call. That's where you're saying, if I got quiet in my mind and listened, what would my body tell me? What would my heart tell me? What would my higher purpose tell me?
Mhm.
Because I don't think spirituality has to be God. I call it God. That's my higher being.
Sure.
But I don't have to go to a box. I don't have to go to a church. I can go sit on my river. I can go sit at the ocean and be more present to God and my spirituality than I can in a building and sing a song, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I like that, and that's good sometimes, but what I want is that presence of spirit, that presence of God.
And I wonder, in your experience and the folks that you associate with on a day to day basis, especially who are in business, who may actually own businesses, do you find that that is starting to become more incorporated, that inner understanding that, again, I know that you will present that in say lectures or what have you to groups of people, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person on stage. But do you find that some of the more well-established, long-term corporations that exist today, do you see that starting to become a part of their day-to-day, or at least within some of the areas of that corporation where they're starting to realize, this, there's got to be more, as that old song is that all there is? And they're starting to realize, they're starting to ask that question, is this is it?
Well, I think as people, we're starting to ask that, right? You get to a certain level where you buy all the things, you do all the things, you buy the house, you buy the car, you have whatever this image is in your head, and then you're still not fulfilled.
Yeah.
And I think that's that calling that you start to go, well, wait, what is it? Right? Like you said, is this all there is? Now, I don't work with a lot of corporations. I work more entrepreneurial, so that we go to about 50 million, and then that's really my cap. But what I do notice is I have a lot of spiritual people in our community. And it's funny when I'm speaking, I always say, God, I'm not going to apologize for that. I'm not putting my beliefs on you, right? That's just where I tap into. And people will pull me aside, Richard, and go, are you a Christian? And I'm like, why are we whispering? Are we going to get flogged? Are we going to get,
Yeah.
It hurts my heart that people aren't self-expressed because they're going to be judged. But if the tongue in my mouth and the tongue in my shoe are going in the same direction, you can judge me. Like what you experienced at the Christian Network was the tongue in their mouth and their tongue in their shoe were going in different directions. I'm saying this, but I'm doing this.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm clear at the end of the day that I lay my head down. I am in integrity with my word, my spirit, my students to go, I don't want that in my space. I don't want that on my conscious. Now, I may hurt somebody. I may say something stupid, right? And I'm open to having Richard come and say, hey, you said that. That didn't really work for me, or you offended me. Okay, great. I work in a very multicultural community. So I have a tendency, I can step on people's toes, right? I had a student say to me one day, because we were talking about growing a business and we are talking about me training. I'm like, I fire hose people. And, we ended the training and she said, can I talk to you? I said, absolutely. She goes, Susie, you can't use that reference as a white woman. I'm like, well, why? She goes, think about the 60s and what happened with fire hose. And now you're telling us as African American students that you're fire hosing us with content. I get your context, but it's not appropriate. And I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I apologize. I apologize if anything I've ever said offended you.
Yeah.
And I can see where that context would offend you. And so I will be responsible. Now, did it offend everybody? No, but it offended her. And I'm sure it offended her. There's probably somebody else in my community that I unconsciously offended. So I don't want to do that on purpose.
Yeah.
But I was looking at new homes and you can't say master bedroom anymore. And I was like, well, why can't you say that? You have to say main living space or main, bedroom area. And it goes back to slave quarters and the master's house and the master's room. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, oh, whatever. I respect that. I understand that. And it makes people uncomfortable. That's awareness. That's responsibility. Not getting mad at me because I said it, not hating me because I said it, to hold me accountable. If I don't change my behavior, if I don't change and be conscious and responsible for what I said, right, then that's a different story. Right. So I either push people to, they either love what I'm talking about or they don't love what I'm talking about, which is great.
Yeah.
Sooner, quicker, faster. Decide I'm the right for you, decide I'm not right for you. That's okay. I'm not for everyone. And that's what Richard said. There's so much abundance that if I'm not the right person for you, there's somebody else that I can direct you to. There's somebody else Richard can direct you to. There's so many people in the world that want to help you. Right? I'm not attached to, I have to help every single person. I
Yeah.
want to impact a million small businesses, in our country, and teach them about profitability in their business. And it can be fun, so that we can create these businesses that are making a profound difference in the world, in every community. And what you look like, because we talked about your image, right? And we talked about, everything being video now. You got to be on video. And people need you. They need to see Richard like Richard. They need to see me like me. They need to see my students like they are, whatever they look like, however big or small or pretty or, whatever they think they are or not, whatever. We need to see that person so we see ourselves. So
Yeah.
there's plenty of room and plenty of opportunity.
I've often thought of the First Amendment, freedom of speech. It's not it's not a one-sided sword, if you will. It's two-sided. It's two-edged. Yes, you can say whatever you want, but the other edge is you also have to take responsibility for what you are saying. You can't just, as I guess, I don't know if the Supreme Court ruled on it this way or not. You cannot yell fire in a crowded movie house.
Right.
And and so I sometimes wonder about that. We talk a great deal here on this program about how words have power, and your intent. When you use those words, that's the power behind those words. I went to task with someone about a politician who basically he wanted to win the governorship in Arizona, where I was born and raised, and he brought up this criminal court proceeding that his opponent had gone through 10 years earlier, and it had been, I think, dismissed. But he still brought it up. And this person said to me, "Well, Richard, you are so naive. You're so idealistic. It's just politics." I said, "No, it's not. Because the individual who is using those examples and those words, their intent is to get into that office, to have the power to do whatever it is that they think that they're going to be able to do. So don't tell me that it's just politics and those words don't mean anything, because they do. They
Well, that's
have
some excuse to not hold yourself at a higher standard.
exactly.
Like, I get to say whatever I want to say and not be my word. What happened
Yeah,
to the word in our country? Right? If I say something, it means something. But my
yeah,
dad said at the end of the day, all you have is your word and who you are.
yeah.
I don't care how much money you make. I don't care. Because, as a kid, you're running shenanigans,
Mhm.
and doing stuff. He goes, show me who your friends are. I'll show you who you are. And if you aren't your word, you're not a person to be reckoned with. And
Exactly.
it's like, I've always remembered that, to just be my word. Now I'm gonna make mistakes. And I might say something stupid, but I will own it, apologize it, clean up. I think some people think if I have to apologize, then, there's a weakness to that. I think there's a power in that. That's
Absolutely.
humanity, right? We're
Absolutely.
growing as human beings, right? Especially looking at the trajectory of how the world is changing and what our needs are and what season we're in our business and our life. To, of course, you're going to do silly things or dumb things or make mistakes, right? That's what makes us unique. In our trainings, I talk more about my failures than my wins. Great, I've built 10 multi-million-dollar companies. Who cares? You want to hear in my darkest night, how did I not give up? How did I not want to just throw the towel in? You want to hear the struggle that I had as a single mom, raising two little girls, running a business, not having family support, raising my two children by myself, not having any financial support from him. How did I do that? Right? Not just on my soapbox of, I'm so great. Who cares? Right? Let me hear the truth about how the hardship and then the overcoming.
I shared this on a previous program. where I was, and I've said this before too, that I'm a very optimistic person. My glass is half full. And I was sort of at a low point not too many days ago. My wife is on family leave due to some issues she's dealing with, the passing of her sister back in early March. I am dealing with the passing of my eldest sister in late March. I am dealing with the challenges that we are faced with financially because she's on family leave, trying to get the paperwork all done. I could add a number of other things to that list, but I'll suffice it to say that I was sharing with someone. I said, this is just kind of how I'm feeling. I'm venting. My intent is not to have this happen. I don't want to draw it to me by any means. But I said, you know how you hear about those people that somehow they get caught up in the judicial system. They find themselves in jail, and then they fight and fight and fight. And sometimes it takes 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days, 10 years, or never. And I said, I'm about ready to throw up my hands and say, you know what, if I get caught up in that, I'm going to just give up and say, just lock me away. Because at least I'll have 3 meals in a cot. I have a place to live, a place to lay my head. And I don't have to pay taxes. I don't have to worry about any of this other stuff. And he just kind of looked at me and I says, understand, I'm venting. That's all I'm doing right now. I don't really want that, but that's my level of frustration. And that was where I was, some days ago. But I still feel very optimistic. One of the things that you talked about, and I think this applies when you were talking about not only creating strategic partnerships, but also uncovering hidden profit gold mines sitting right under your nose. In my career of 43 years plus, I have acquired a massive amount of tools. My toolbox is enormous. It's one of those ones you see in the mechanic's shop at your local gas station that's on wheels. All right? I've got all these tools in there. And then I ask myself, how come I'm not doing better, especially financially? Why am I not at the $10,000 mark? That kind of thing. And again, I kind of go back to what we talked about earlier in the program about, well, the reason is because that's not what the real focus is. Yes, you're making enough to where you're able to take care of this, that, and the other thing. Yes, you trust in the universe to provide, and so forth. And you're here now talking with Susie Carter about her book, Power Your Profits. And you're here now in spite of, or maybe because of, everything that you've been through, especially on a financial level, but everything else. I've been through one divorce. I have no intention of doing it again. I've moved from, I have, what'd you call them? A past husband. I forget what your term was.
My husband.
Husband. Well, I have a was wife.
Yeah.
I like that better than ex. I just have a hard time with that because, but it's like, my God, in spite of or because of everything that you've been through and I've been through, my God, here we are. We're still alive. We're still kicking. We're still doing. So what makes us think that in the next 10 minutes, 10 hours, 10 days, 10 months, 10 years, we won't still be kicking along because we have that something, that spark in us that drives us forward, that makes our shoe tongue go in the same direction as our mouth tongue.
I think there's so much to be unpacked inside of that whole conversation, right? I think, like you said, you found your calling and never attached it to the finances. Right. When I look at your toolbox now, to go, how many young broadcasters would love that toolbox? Right. So I immediately see, you're talking, I see dollar signs, I see, opportunity, I see online classes, I see, you talking and bringing people, young broadcasters to pave the way. I started this because there wasn't a me, right, in my industry. I'm like, who's going to tell me the truth? Not some, sprinkle fairy dust, make $1 million. Like what does it really take to create $1 million and then have profit, right? My first business, Richard, we grossed $1 million, but we lost $70,000. Okay, that's not a successful business, right? Mm-hmm. And it was humbling to go, well, and I won awards. I was an award-winning business owner. And to go, this makes no sense. I can work at McDonald's and make more money than this. And so it's understanding what is I wanted security for myself, and I knew that a job, because I was a hairdresser, that was my vocation, right? I wasn't going to get a job that paid me any kind of money. I had to create my wealth, right? And although I have a ton of education, I had no formal education. And so entrepreneurship gave me the ability to make $1,000 a day, right? There's not many professions that you can go and make $1,000 a day with no education, if you know what I mean. And so I was able to make great money for myself, my children, my family. As a hairdresser, I was doing $250,000 a year as a hairdresser.
Wow.
And to give you some kind of idea, the average hairdresser makes today less than $60,000 a year. So back then, that was a lot of money. Right now, I was spending it as fast as I was making it. I'm going to be honest, that was my down to my up, right? To go, oh, how do you make this much money and spend it all? Right? But I didn't have a budget. I didn't have a vision. I wanted to get out of scarcity. Once I got out of scarcity, I went, okay, I'm out of scarcity now. I'm not in survival, right? I don't have to worry about that. What's the next for me? And so I think we're not really taught to create wealth. Right? Even in entrepreneurship, 82% of small businesses aren't profitable. Only 1.7% of businesses hit the $1 million mark. Out of those $1 million businesses, they're not paying themselves a proper paycheck. Right? Not even talking about profitability, they're not even paying themselves what they would get paid if they were working for a company doing the same jobs that we're doing. So part of it is education. Part of it's our plan, right? I have a life plan in every area of my business because I realized I had a really good, clear career path and a really good financial path. Personal life, what was that? Right? Spending time with my family, what was that? Vacation, I was sleeping, right? I was recovering from all the work that I was doing. My spiritual life, that was empty, right? My intellectual life, empty, right? Unless it had to do with work, right? Or finances, because that's what the priority was. Right. And I realized, after I sold my business, there was this void because I sold my business and I couldn't go back into that industry. And so all of a sudden I realized my identity was so wrapped in this success that I created that when I didn't have that, and I went into another market, people didn't know who I was. I was an icon in that industry. Like I'd walk in a room and, it's like the mayor, everybody knows you. Yeah. Now I'd walk in a room and they're like, who are you? Who's this lady, right? And you're like, my ego was hit. I had to redefine who I was. It was a very masculine thing that my identity was wrapped up into my results. But it was a great opportunity. As hard as that was, it had me recreate my life more holistically. Versus this masculine drive, protect, provide, right? And I'm still that way, but now I've really embraced the feminine side with the masculine side, and go, there's something more to life than just working, right?
There is. This goes back to relationship with money, one's relationship with money, and you really need to understand, Susie, that money's the root of all evil, isn't it?
Well, it's the love of money, right? And I think we've all been in there where, it's just that was me. If you think back on my younger day, money, but that was for survival.
Yeah.
Because I was in such survival mode that there was almost a time that when I was creating abundance, I was out of survival, but still in survival. And I go, oh, okay, wait, that's just a cortisol stress and adrenal burnout that nobody needs. But again, not having that person to go, you're not, honey, no one's going to get you, right? Yeah. You're safe now, right? That was my journey of really discovering me separate from my husband, right? Separate from that relationship.
There's also a paradox that's out there, and I've kind of taken a look at this a little bit, and I'm also trying to push away from it. And that has to do with the aspect of you've got two paradigms here. One of them is, this is the land of opportunity, America, the United States. Immigrants have come here over the centuries to may have a better life. They're still coming here, and to the consternation of some. And we see some of the most incredible success stories. It's absolutely fabulous. Here's the other paradigm. The wealthy in this country are looked at as the villains. And so we're going to tax the daylights out of them so we can afford to do the things that we need to do. Well, shoot, if I make $1 million and you're going to take half of it, and that's probably may or may not be an exaggeration, what's the point? Well, yeah, but I still have 500,000. Okay. Yeah, but the government's taken half of what you made the million there. So you've got those two almost diametrically opposed beliefs. That on the one hand, if I make too much, I'm not going to get to keep it all. On the other hand, I can make as much as I want because this is a land of opportunity. How does one circumnavigate those two elements?
Well, it doesn't have to be hard, it has to be strategic. And so that conversation you're having is really a tax strategy. And so when you look at setting up your business, the misnomer is if I make $1 million, they're going to take $500,000. No, you're going to have 50% in cost of goods, in team salary, advertising. So what you might have left is $500,000 to pay yourself, right? So that would be 250 if you don't have tax strategies, right? So I have many different tax strategies that allow me to not pay 100% on that money. I'm not taking all the money now. I'm deferring some of that income. There's only so much money that you need to live on, right? And again, wealth is a long game, not a short game, right? Everything is governed by cause and effect. Everything happens for a reason. Wealth is the effect of specific actions that you do to create wealth, right? It's all about planning. And so people become wealthy because they decide to become wealthy and do the things that wealthy people do. Poor people remain poor because they've not yet decided to create financial abundance and do the things that make it happen. For instance, I realized I was spending so much money on Starbucks, right? I would get 2 coffees a day, so $10 a day. I wouldn't even finish the second coffee. It was just a ritual that I would go out to get me out of the office, right? And you times that by 5 days, right? That's $50 a week. You times that times the month. Now you get $200 a month, times that times 12 months. You got $2,400 that you're spending on coffee. I went and got a Keurig, right? Or a nice espresso machine and went, I'm good. Like, why did I need that? Well, it was like, got me out of the house early, go get coffee. That was like a ritual. Then leave at lunch, go get a ritual. Well, that $2,400 can be a retirement account. Like when you really look at what are you spending, most people's credit card debt, they have no idea what was on that credit card. Like I look at my credit card, I know exactly what that money's for. And so when you look at the frivolous spending or filling a void, right? Women shop to fill a void. Well, what's that void? Let's work on the void versus you buying another pair of shoes, you buying another bag that you don't need, right? That's the discipline that the wealthy have versus the poor, is that instant gratification. Now, I had to learn that early because in my husband relationship, I had to file bankruptcy, right? And that shifts the game completely. So inside of that lesson, I'm like, if I can't pay cash, I can't have it, because I was on cash basis because I had no credit. And so the blessing in that has taught me to go, do I really need this, right? Do I really? So my first credit card after that bankruptcy was American Express, because back in the day, you had to pay it off. And it gave me the discipline to think, why do I really want this? Can I pay it off next month? And the answer was no, I didn't get it. And I still to this day have that same philosophy more than 30 years later, going, can I pay this off next month? Nope, I'm not getting it. My business doesn't have any debt. The only personal debt I have is my house. That's the only debt I have. And so when I look at, most people aren't willing to make those conversations. That's an adult responsible conversation. Now, sometimes there's financial hurt, financial crisis that you might have to go into debt for. Like if you look at a medical issue, that's not normal for you guys, that your wife's in this period, right? To go, oh, she's on leave, so this might be different, right? I believe there's good debt and bad debt. The good debt is the debt you can see, or it's going to help you make money. Like a house is a good investment, right? They say luxury cars is not a good investment, right? So you want to look at, is this a good investment or not a good investment, right? So I think it's important for us to look at what are my dysfunctions, and being honest about your dysfunctions, right? And then expand your time horizon as far as possible. I want you to think out 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, right? When I'm looking at my wealth strategy, I'm not looking at, I'm saving, 30 grand this year. I'm looking at what will that 30 grand get me in 10 more years, right? How is that going to monetize itself? Is it better in real estate or is it better in the market, right? And then diversify, right? I learned this in 2008. Richard, Lord Jesus. I don't know if you remember 2008, but I
Oh
got
yeah. Oh yeah.
mollywopped by 2008. We had sold our business for millions. We were heavily invested in the real estate market. And what felt like overnight, we had $10 million in assets, right? Real estate, we owned a building, we owned several rental properties, plus our primary property, heavily invested in real estate. And it was leveraged. It wasn't all cash, right? It was heavily leveraged because that was the model, right? Our investment strategist was talking about it. Our real estate investment strategist was talking about it. We followed the rules, whatever the rules were. Like, I was a good student, Richard, good student. I did what they told me to do. And in 2008, the rug was pulled out from under me. What felt like overnight, we lost $10 million in assets. Our portfolio went down. Our real estate investments went down. My marriage of 17 years, gone. He couldn't handle. He felt he was responsible for the financial devastation for our family. So he left the relationship. And so here I am at 42 years old thinking, I don't have 20 years to rebuild. I don't have 20 years. I don't have the drive. I don't have the stamina. I just felt like I was clobbered. And I heard a voice in my head. And the voice said to me, Richard, I will never leave you. I will never forsake you. Get up. This will be your biggest victory and your biggest lesson. Get up. You know what to do. And I wish I could say that I popped right up, but I did not pop right up. I felt like a fraud. I felt like an idiot. I felt I was confused. Like, what do I do now? I had a non-compete in that industry. And I had two clients. One was a woman by the name of Lisa Nichols, I had been coaching for years, and the other was John Assaraf, two of the most sought after transformational leaders in our country. I did a turnaround in John's company, and I took Lisa's company from 1 million to 10 million. And it didn't take me 20 years because now I knew what to do. Now I knew the system of money. Now I understood because I was much more sophisticated. And so it took me about 5 years to start rebuilding my portfolios, to really reposition myself. But I had the long-term vision. The first thing I did was invest in real estate. Found a property, put a big down payment down, and then just chunked that property down. Paid it off as much as I could because I'm like, I'm going to have one asset. And I will never leverage myself that way financially. So every piece of property that I have, right, that is an investment property, is either paid for cash or I'm not buying it. Because I never want to feel that way again. I'm too seasoned. I'm a little seasoned, y'all. If you're not watching this video, it's not my first rodeo. So again, I don't want to have that higher risk. When I was young, I could have that risk, right? Now I'm in my 50s. I don't want to have that kind of risk. I want to have more balanced risk. Mm-hmm. And so I share that to say, you will get mollywopped. You will get knocked down. You will have bloody knees, bloody elbows. What are you willing to do when that time comes? Are you willing to stay on the ground and have a pity party? Because I wanted to stay on the ground. I'm like, if I didn't have children, I don't know if I'd be here today. My children were my why am I saving grace? Because I was just devastated. And it allowed me to see that I can create anything that's possible. That I have the power to change this. And that when you know the strategy that you need to put in place to create wealth, not just money, wealth. Wealth meaning I don't have to work again. Wealth meaning that my lifestyle provides me a well-being that a job can't, right? That I can spend time with my children and my grandchildren and be able to have a life that I love. Entrepreneurship has created that for me.
Yeah. I will tell you, folks, that the information that Susie Carter is giving us, SusieCarder.com is the website you can go to get more of this great information. The book, of course, Power Your Profits. We certainly hope that you will go to her website and check that out. We're linked to her website, both on our website, richarddugan.com, but also on the the SoundCloud audio portion. I am still working on that aspect of being able to create a link within the video itself to to set that up, and I'm learning little by little. I'm learning how to create these much better presentations in video format. And I thank you, of course, for being with us here on the program as well, and assisting us in this process of better understanding our role when it comes to money. Here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, your host. We're here with Susie Carter, SusieCarder.com. We will be linked to her website, as I've mentioned, and of course her book as well is Power Your Profits. I want to ask you three final questions. You may have addressed them a little bit as we've done this over an hour program that we've been chatting here, and I thank you so much.
But it's so fun. We both love what we're doing, Richard. This is work. Isn't it great?
That's my father said to me, he, by the way, hates being referred to as a wise guy because he doesn't consider himself wise, but I do. And he said to me, a number of things he said to me over the years, but one in particular was, find a job that you love doing because you're going to be doing it for a long time. Don't get stuck like me. Now, my father didn't stay stuck. In the 70s, when I was in high school, he went back to junior college. He got his computer programming degree. Now, in the 70s, they still had fanfold paper and punch cards. So we had lots of stuff to draw with when we were younger. But he didn't stay stuck. And then, of course, the company that he had been working for so many years decided to move to Utah. He did not want to move the family to Utah. So he, I guess, took his pension or whatever it was, and then he got another job in the computer industry back in the 70s, early 80s, and so forth. So I took that to heart. But what's really funny, Susie, I didn't plan consciously on going into broadcast producing and radio and television and videos and so forth. I was going to a junior college myself after high school. And I was working in the audiovisual department at Phoenix College in Phoenix, Arizona. They had a great sign outside the front door of the audiovisual department. It said, "This is the Department of Redundancy Department." I love that sign. And we would take all of the various audio and or video equipment to the different classrooms, and we would set it up. We would start it for them. We would leave, and then we'd come back and we'd break it down, take it back to the AV department. And then my counselor, my guidance counselor said, "Hey, there's this radio station that's starting up, and it's just up the street here. It's called Sun Sounds Radio Reading Service for the Blind and Visually Impaired." I thought, oh, okay, I hadn't really thought about radio, but okay, why not? Now, a little backstory. In 8th grade, we were to write that report, what I want to be when I grow up kind of thing, right? And again, I didn't put these things together in college.
Right.
I interviewed a gentleman by the name of Pat McMahon. He's still on the radio in Phoenix, but then he was on television. He was one of the cast members of one of the longest running kids shows, I think, in this country, if not in Arizona, called the Wallace and Ladmo Show. And he played a number of different characters, from this bratty little rich kid named Gerald to Captain Super, a superhero. He played a clown. He played a Marshall Good, and it was all for the kids. Well, I made a call. I got an interview with him. So I took my little cassette recorder, and I'm 8th grade. I'm 12 years old, and I go in and I interview him. I don't have the tape. I wish to God I still had the tape.
Right.
I have a picture of him and I together at that, at that meeting. And it wasn't until I was told about this job at Sun Sounds that my career it started to roll. And now I was legally blind from birth. So I was not just an employee, I was also a client. I got one of the receivers where they read the newspapers and the magazines and the periodicals. Now, what they call audibles. I was listening to audibles long before they were ever cool.
Yes.
And I have found myself, quite honestly, in the right place at the right time pretty much throughout my entire life, and especially my career. Now, when you look back on your life, do you find that in spite of, or maybe again, even because of, all of the things that have happened to you, as well as all of the choices that you made, that you actually were in the right place at the right time? Again, hindsight being what it is, 2020. Do you look at it now and say, you know what? If it wasn't for all of these things, I wouldn't be here right now.
Absolutely. Like I didn't know the trajectory of what I'm gonna say God, your higher power. Like when you said that, I'm like, that's a God thing. That's a God thing. That was playing in my head. That's a God thing. That's a God thing. Right. And so when I look at even, my divorce, I was in an abusive relationship. And I remember Richard being on the floor and he was on top of me and I looked, to the left and saw my daughter crying. And I visually saw my mom on the floor with a man on top of her. And it was that flash of like, oh, hell no. I will not teach my daughters this is okay. But that's all I knew. Like, if you weren't yelling at me or smacking me, you must not love me. Right? And so that was a God thing to go. I had to see myself in that environment. I had to choose myself powerfully and to choose something different for my family and choose something different for my daughters so that they can have a life that is unrecognizable, the men they choose today. And it took a lot of work, and that was a blessing. That was a gift that was wrapped in sandpaper. I don't like that I had to go through it, but I was repeating the past and I was smart enough to get out of the past. And so even when I lost all my money on the floor, when I was crying, I'm like, what is the lesson, God? What is the lesson? What am I supposed to be learning? Because I was a good student. I was a good steward. I was responsible. It was easy to feel like a victim in that moment, right? To go, I did everything right. I did everything you told me to do. Why? What am I supposed to get here? And that's when the voice said, this will be your biggest lesson and your biggest victory. Get up, go tell the people. I'm like, I'm not telling people this shit. I'm not telling people I lost $10 million. No, sirree. No, who's going to listen to me if I tell them I did that? And the funny thing was, people started, giving me standing ovations and they're crying and they're like, oh my God, that happened to me too. Thank you for sharing that story. Oh my God, I found myself in that same situation. Oh my God, thank you. I needed the courage to get out of this relationship. Thank you. I feel hope and possibility now. I didn't see that when I was in my shit. What I saw was just the pain and the sorrow and my looking good and trying to pretend that I had it all together. God was like, that's not real. That's not who you are. Show them the journey to show your commitment and your conviction. Right? Your commitment and your conviction. I had to have commitment and conviction to my bigger why. My bigger why was my children, those two little girls. My bigger why was my bigger calling in life. And I had to make it up. Like, I don't know what my calling is. I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. And, God will never close a door without opening a window, but nobody talks about the hallway. Nobody talks about when that door slams, like, which way do I go down the hall, right? And the fear that it takes. That's why depression is so high right now. Alcoholism is so high. Abuse, marital abuse, spousal abuse is so high right now. It's because we're in the hallway. Get out of that hallway. Run to the window. Run to the light. Run to the light. So as much as those things, I believe those are your generals, right? That's your general stripes. Is when I was sued, like, why am I being sued? I'm a good boss. I followed all the rules like I thought. Well, apparently I didn't follow them the right way. So, being sued was a lesson. And to go, you know what, Richard, you're being sued. Oh, it's not that big of a deal. Let me show you what to do. Right? Because you don't know as an entrepreneur. Yeah. And so being willing to share your hardship, to share that pain, to share your humanity is when the love comes through. Yeah. Where people see like, oh my God, I have a bigger kinship with Richard now because he shared that story, right? Some of you listening will go, oh my gosh, if she can do it, I can do it. And that's all I want. If I can do it, you can do it.
When you mentioned the hallway, immediately I flashed to the hallway in the home I grew up in with my 4 sisters and my brother and my mother and father. And we had one bathroom. Okay? It was a 3-bedroom, 1-bath brick home.
Yeah.
I saw that hallway at the beginning of the hallway. If you're facing down the hallway, behind you is the bathroom. To the right immediately is my parents. You go halfway down the hallway, there's my brother and my room and our room. And then at the end of the hallway, at the front of the house, all four girls shared one room. And they all came out alive, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, they did. And they are great sisters. Sadly, I lost one of them in late March of this year to cancer. But that's the voice I'm hearing now. Is my sister's voice saying, "Hey, Richard, it's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. You're going to be fine. You're going to be fine." And it's kind of nice to sort of have a recognizable voice to what I like to call my friend, my inner voice, my still small voice. We are always looking for, unfortunately, the quick and easy way. There is no quick and easy way when it comes to what we're talking about here. And I think even more importantly, Susie, you would probably agree that, again, as you said earlier, it isn't about the money, honey. It's about what is really important, and I put it in this one word, and that one word is, it's really about community. Without it, you really don't have anything. And I think that a lot of folks who find themselves, quote unquote, on the outs. I just did an interview with a gentleman who's got a program down in San Diego called Doors of Change for I believe it's a transformational age youth. In other words, it's young people between 17 and 25 who are living on the streets of San Diego. And he has found a way to help them through his nonprofit. And music is like the key. What was the one thing, if there was one thing, that helped you through the most challenging times, that you would now, let's just say, for the sake of argument, we're putting no intent in this, ladies and gentlemen, Susie, you just lost everything. All right, everything's gone. All you got left are the people that are in your life today. What would you be turning to today to, I don't know, buoy yourself up, lift yourself up, rise up above what you've lost, et cetera, et cetera?
So I have a really tight inner circle. I don't have a lot of friends. I have quality friends, quality relationships. My children are the foundation of my relationships. They're in their 30s now. So we've truly crossed over into friendship. And so when I look at friendship, when I look at love, love's a verb. It's an action. It's not this passive thing. I just can't say, I love you, Richard. That's a word. I'd have to demonstrate that and show that. And so what got me through, because I don't have to pretend, I know what got me through. One was my children and my relationship with them and their belief in me. And they're like, Mom, you're not remembering who you are. You got this. Like, you create money out of air. I'm like, I do not. I just lost money out of air. Right? And so their belief in me. And then my ride or die friends, my community. You talked about that. Your community, your tribe is your vibe. And so I had two really close friends that picked me up and said, you got this. Like, let's do this together. One was Lisa Nichols. I had been her coach for years, and I have coaches in every area of my life, right? I have 3 financial coaches because, again, I don't want to go back to losing it all again, right? So I'm definitely more strategic than I was in my youth. In my youth, I was learning and investing and strategizing. Now I have the experience. That's the wisdom that everybody talks about. Has some wisdom around it, right? I'm not just willing to spend money like I did in my youth because now I don't have, you have a different trajectory when you get, I'm in my 50s. It's a different trajectory. And so she said, just do for me what you did for you, and we can make money together. And what I knew is it's strategy. Of course I can make money. And so her belief in me, because I really lost who I was trying to redefine who am I now, because I threw the baby out with the bathwater. I think we do that in divorces. We throw the baby out with the bathwater. right? We believe the commentary, right? I was believing the commentary that was in my own head. I had a personal development coach, aka therapist, that I went to regularly to let go of the shame. My husband left me of 17 years. Like, what, am I not a good wife? Like, what happened? Like, I didn't understand his experience because I'm just feeling left and abandoned, right? And as a young kid having abandonment issues, and I'd already known, I'd worked through, but now again, here it is again, like proof that you're not worthy, proof that you're not lovable, proof that you're not enough. And so I had to do a lot of personal development work. And so entrenching myself into going, what do I need to learn for myself? And again, what's the lesson? And so your community, people that you can tell the truth to, and tell the ugly truth. Like, it was ugly truth that I had to share. And then I got braver and started telling the ugly truth, like I'm telling you the ugly truth right now. Like, it's just, it is what it is. Like, it happened. And to pretend it didn't would be the tongue of my mouth and my tongue in my shoe going in a different direction. And what I know is I'm committed that if my story can help one person, whether it's a woman in an abusive relationship, whether it's a single mom trying to figure out how to feed their children, whether it's an entrepreneur in the struggle right now inside a pandemic, is to give hope. To go, there's hope when you reach out. There's hope when you tell the truth, right? You know, it's in the Bible, right? So when you start looking at the truth will set you free. And sometimes we're afraid to share the ugly truth.
Yeah.
Well, it doesn't mean it's the truth. It's your truth, right? It's your truth in what you're experiencing right now. Just like you were saying to that person that you're like, I just need to vent. That was your truth in the moment. It's not the truth. It's not how you really think. It's like, let me just say it so that I can be free. Because once you say it, there is a freedom to go, oh, I didn't really feel that way. I think divorce is at an all-time high and abuse is at an all-time high because we're not saying the truth, right? You irritate me, or we don't have boundaries, or you're not doing your share, or you're not doing, like, talk about it. Like, let's have some real conversations, not the surface conversations, right? That's where anger stems from. Anger stems from love and not getting it, right? It's not just being stuck and angry. If you look at where anger stems, you know, underneath this, the whole is love. I'm not getting the love, which goes to regret, which goes into forgiveness, which goes into all the work you have to do. And a lot of people don't want to do that work because they don't want to be that vulnerable.
Yeah.
But that's the purpose of life. The purpose of life is to experience that love. We are all seeking it from a partner, from our children, from our community. Respect is love.
Yeah.
We want respect because we want people to respect us, but that's an expression of love.
Yeah.
And, you know, again, I think, you know, we're talking about money, we're talking about business, but at the end of the day, we're all human beings.
Yeah.
Looking for that same journey, which is, how about now? Do you love me now? How about now? How about now? Do you love me now?
How about now? I actually had an experience like that when I was back in Phoenix in late April, where we were there for my sister's memorial, and I came home from the gathering from my youngest sister's house, with my mother and my aunt. I beg your pardon, my mother and my niece, who's the daughter of my eldest sister who passed. And we came in the house, and my dad did not go to the memorial because he just doesn't have the stability, but they had it on Zoom, so he was able to watch it at home, which was great. And my brother had gone with us he had left with us in the car. Well, he didn't come back with us. He was staying at my sister's house for a little while longer. He's going to be brought home by one of my other sisters. My father comes up to me, again, 90 years old. And he comes up to the dining room table, and I'm standing there chatting, and he looks at me and says, "Where's your brother?" And my brother apparently can get away with this. I can't. Because I says, "Well, Dad, I'm sorry to say we had to sell him in order to put gas in the car." He immediately said, "Look, when I ask a question, I want an answer." And I said, "I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't mean to make a joke. He's coming home." I told, coming home later with my other sister. Later that evening, as I've put, and I gave my brother the bedroom. I took the couch out in the living room. I chose to do that. And so I'm there getting everything squared away and putting the sheets on and the pillow and everything. My father comes into the room. I turn around and he says, "I want to apologize for being so short with you, being upset with you earlier." I said, "Look, Dad, I love you, and you will always be my father, and I will always love you." And we hugged a little bit, and it was all good, and we were fine. I didn't see there was a problem even when he got upset because I had apologized and so forth. So later on, as we're getting ready to depart, I'm getting ready to go to the train station, the metro station, to go to the airport. My second oldest sister, who has her own conditions of stability, she's using a cane as well. And the two of them, my father and my sister, they're hugging, only they're kind of leaning sort of into each other. And my sister's, come on in here. Let's all have a hug here, the three of us. And I said to the both of them, I says, do you know that if the two of you leaned into each other, you wouldn't fall down? And they kind of got a little bit of a chuckle out of that. And again, I was just, trying to lighten things up a little bit. And they kind of chuckled a little bit. My brother apparently can get away with more of those jokes than I can because that's just his way. I think that's a defense mechanism of his more than anything. I don't usually do that, but it just seemed like it was cute, and I thought it was cute. But sometimes my intent wasn't to be mean or anything. I was having fun, and it was light, and we were just coming back from, of course, again, my sister's memorial, and I have to say it was one of the most beautiful memorials I'd ever been to. A great mixture of laughter and tears. It was just a perfect mixture. It was absolutely fabulous, and I will share this with you as I shared with my listeners. You talk about a closure, and being able to move forward. I didn't get to see my sister after her passing. They did not have a funeral. She was cremated. But my brother-in-law, her husband, I remember from the day I met him, over 40 years ago. They were married 40 years, by the way. He always had a camera with him. Well, the last picture that they showed in the last video presentation was a picture of him standing in front of the table where my sister was lying in the mortuary. Now, you couldn't really see anything. It was more silhouette, but you knew who they were. You could tell. And my niece, his daughter, took the picture. And my sister, Cecilia, she's my second oldest, she gasped and then put her hands over her mouth and asked later, did you hear that? Is that always me? And I just thought, thank you. Thank you for sharing this picture because it gave me closure. It's like I almost want a copy of that photograph.
Yes.
I mean, it was so beautifully done. It was the dim lights and all of that. And there he and my sister are together for the last time. It was absolutely fantastic. And even my brother-in-law, he mentioned in his remarks, he says, we never had a lot of money, but boy, we sure had a lot of fun together. We traveled a lot, went a lot of different places, brought a child into this world who brought us grandchildren, to my mother, of course, and my father, great-grandchildren. It was just, and so it goes to show what you're talking about in all of this is borne out through the life of not just, but of my sister and her husband and their daughter and her two children. That's what they found as important. That's what they found as priceless, beyond value. And when we talk about community, which to me is the ultimate, that's where the real gold is. And there's nothing wrong with acquiring wealth, absolutely not. And that's an area that we all, I think, need to work on. And I want to thank you so much for being a part of this program.
You are welcome. Thank you. Thank you for being so vulnerable and sharing so much of you, Richard. That's a true leader, transformational leader. I appreciate you. I appreciate the time that you've allowed me to share with this community. And again, if I can be of service to anyone, please reach out so we can help you.
Absolutely. The website, SusieCarder.com, SusieCarder.com. We will be linked to her website as well, and we certainly hope that you will subscribe to either the podcast or the video cast. You know that you can listen to this program online at richarddugan.com, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. for a special edition of Tell Me Your Story, where the podcasts are also available at SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Burberry, I think it's how it's pronounced. We're also on Player FM, Amazon Music, and many other locations on the internet. And we're also on YouTube, where you can watch the video casts of these programs. We also encourage you to participate in the Decade of Perfect Vision, the 2020s, as we encourage you to go within and listen to your still small voice. You can call it the divine. I call it my friend. I have for, many, many, many years, decades. As I've been listening. And we also ask that if you're able to do so, you can support the financial work that we have going here on Tell Me Your Story. We have a PayPal account. It's for your security as well as ours. And so if you can do that, we have links on the homepage of Tell Me Your Story of richarddugan.com. where you can click on that link and boom, it just takes you right where you need to be. So with all of that being said, I want to ask you, Susie Carter, 3 questions that I've asked all of my guests, and you may have answered them to some degree throughout the program, but I like to ask them directly. The first of those 3 questions is, who is Susie Carter?
Well, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a friend, I'm a ride or die, I'm a soul sister, and I'm an amazing woman willing to make a difference on this planet.
What is it that you hope to or want to achieve through the work that you are doing now?
I want to empower business women to be fiscally responsible for themselves and their family and help create generational wealth.
And finally, what is your life's purpose?
That wealth is our birthright. It's not for some of us, it's for all of us.
And I would add to that, from my perspective, it is not a conversation about the redistribution of wealth. It's about making your own way. And Susie made it, and you can too. And I hope that you will go to her website, susiecarder.com. I'm Richard Dugan. This has been Tell Me Your Story. New paradigms for a new world. We are giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast, love to Lal and Jeanette. I'm listening.